As the Democratic House managers wrap up their opening arguments, the president's team says they are planning to deliver a, quote, vigorous defense. MSNBC political analyst and Republican strategist Susan Percio is here with me now. Michael Starr Hopkins is a Democratic strategist. He is in D.C. We miss you now that you've left us here on set, but great to have you with us. We miss you, too. Susan, today's the last day that the Democrats have to convince senators that Trump should be removed from office. Schiff even referenced late Senator John McCain today when making his point about the significance of Ukraine to national security interests and the threat of Russia. I'd like to play that.
One American, a war hero and statesman who is no stranger to this body, recognized the threat posed by Russia's invasion of Crimea, Senator John McCain. In an interview, he declared, quote, "We are all Ukrainians." Senator McCain advised that this is a chess match reminiscent of the Cold War, and we need to realize that and act accordingly. He was, of course, absolutely right.
Susan, what do you think of Schiff bringing up McCain there? Good strategy, bad strategy?
I understood the strategy. A lot of people obviously respected Senator McCain. I think they would think if he was there right now, he'd be giving the president a lot of grief and a lot of cause to worry as far as where his votes would be. But what I'm more concerned about as far as watching this come to a close on the House side is the message has to be about the witnesses. We need the witnesses because for the next 3 days, we're going to hear the president's team going. They're going to muddy these messages backwards and forwards. We're going to hear about everything but a kitchen sink, and maybe even that.
And maybe the sink, too.
Maybe the sink, too. And then what happens on Tuesday when they have to decide if they're going to, well, they're going to take questions, but what happens after that? Where's the call for the witnesses? Because that's the whole game right now. No one believes that the president's going to be removed from office, but the witnesses are the game. And that's where I think maybe they could have done a little bit better today.
Michael, do you think Democrats have been effective at all in convincing their Republican counterparts to convict Trump? I know you've been speaking to folks there on the Hill. What are you hearing?
So what I'm hearing from the Hill is on both the Democrat and Republican side, there's a real nervousness around whether or not, there's more information that's going to come out. When I talk to Republicans, one of their big fears is they don't know what they don't know. And so every day there's new information that's coming out. Today it was the Les Parnas tape. And now we're hearing that there may be an hour-long tape that's been recorded by Les Parnas that's turned over to the impeachment trial. And so I think there's a big worry for people like Susan Collins, people like Cory Gardner, that they'll acquit and then, 6 months, 8 months, 10 months down the line, once it's time for them to be reelected, new information will come out and it'll be devastating for their chances at reelection.
Michael, let me ask you about a new ABC News Washington Post poll out today. It says 66% of Americans say the U.S. Senate should call new witnesses in Donald Trump's impeachment trial. 47% of Americans say he should be removed from office. What, if anything, does this tell you about how this trial and these opening arguments are connecting with the public?
It tells you that we're not going to find any profiles in courage within the Republican side of the Senate. Let me say, at the end of the day, this is up to the American people. They have to decide what kind of country we want to be. Do we want to be a country that's a democracy, that's, honest and transparent? Or do we want to be a country that has authoritarian tendencies, that, is corrupt and believes that we can cover things up because re-election's the best thing? I think that's really where we're at the end of the day. Congressman Schiff was right. At the end of the day, we can't trust that our president is going to do the right thing at the moment. And so I think that, that's the argument that Democrats need to be making. And I think at the end of the day, that'll be the only thing that'll make Republicans stand up and find their backbone. It's going to be the polling data.
Hey, NBC News viewers, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.